Look at her, you skinny witch.
In the darkest hours of Saturday night in the kingdom of Odam, twin girls were born. Two beautiful little girls were born to Papa Nonso and Mama Chidinma. Their father, a wealthy gold trader who sold gold all over the country, named the newborns Oluchi and Oluoma. Over the years, it became clear that the twins had great physical differences, although they were served the same meals at the same time. Oluchi was surprisingly thin, tall and lanky, while Oluoma was rounder and shorter. Oluchi was often the target of mockery by the other children in the village. As soon as they saw her, they would start laughing and calling her the skinny girl. They refused to play with her, thinking she wouldn't be able to keep up with their games, but Oluoma, her twin sister, was always there to defend her. "If you call my sister all those nasty names again, you will have to deal with me," Oluoma would shout to anyone who made fun of Oluchi. She wasn't afraid of anyone when it came to protecting her sister. Oluchi knew she could always count on Oluoma to stand up for her. Years passed, but the situation did not improve for Oluchi. Oluoma and Oluchi did everything together. They played, studied, and even sang side by side. They were inseparable. However, while Oluoma was gaining weight and seemed healthy, Oluchi remained very thin. The people in the village gossiped about Oluchi, saying she was not good enough because she was too thin. How will she be able to get married if she stays like this? She will never be able to take care of a home or a family, the villagers whispered when Oluchi passed by. They ignored the pain their words caused her. Every time Oluchi heard these things, she became sad and sometimes preferred to be alone in silence, full of shame. But as hard as the situation was, Oluoma was always there to comfort her. "Don't listen to them," Oluoma told Oluchi, hugging her. "You are beautiful just the way you are. Those who don't understand you don't matter. You are special, and one day people will see how wonderful you are." But the mockery didn't only come from the children. The adults in the village, especially the older women, also pointed at her, whispering, "Look how thin she is. She'll never become strong enough to do the family chores." It was hard for Oluchi to ignore these comments, especially when they came from people who were supposed to be kind and wise. Despite this, Oluoma didn't let anyone insult her sister. If someone made fun of Oluchi, Oluoma didn't hesitate to threaten them. "Stop immediately, or you'll regret it." The villagers knew better than to make Oluoma angry because she was fierce when it came to protecting Oluchi. One day, something happened that made Oluchi even sadder. A big dance party was to take place in the village. All the young people were going to meet there to dance, sing, and have fun. Oluchi and Oluoma were excited because they loved to dance. They had practiced for a long time and had always dreamed of going to this big party. However, at the entrance to the party, the leader of the group of young women, a girl named Betty, looked at Oluchi and declared, "You can't come in. We don't want a skinny girl like you who would spoil the fun." Oluchi's heart sank. Her face turned red with shame, and she felt tears coming to her eyes. She turned around immediately and ran home with a heavy heart. Oluoma was furious. She wanted to yell at Betty and tell her how wrong she was, but she didn't want to make a scene. Instead, she ran after Oluchi, heartbroken for her sister. She found Oluchi sitting by the window crying. "Don't let their words hurt you," said Oluoma softly as she sat down next to her. "You are beautiful just the way you are. You are special, and no one has the right to make you feel less. They don't understand you, and probably never will." Oluchi wiped away her tears and gave a small smile. She was grateful to have a sister like Oluoma. "But why do they say all these things about me? Why can't they see who I really am?" she asked with a sad heart. "People are afraid of what they don't understand," answered Oluoma. "But we know the truth. You are wonderful as you are, and one day they will realize it." Despite these comforting words, Oluchi couldn't help but feel sad at times. The mockery of the villagers did not stop, and nothing seemed to be able to change their minds. Oluchi's parents and Oluoma tried everything to help Oluchi gain weight. They talked to doctors who suggested special foods, and then went to herbalists who promised to make Oluchi stronger, but nothing worked. No matter what she ate, Oluchi remained as thin as before. The villagers continued to mock her, saying that she would never be useful to her family. They laughed and insulted her when she passed by, but Oluoma tirelessly defended her sister, always ready to fight for Oluchi. The only thing that really comforted Oluchi was her talent in the kitchen. She cooked so well that her family often cleaned their plates completely, praising her for her delicious dishes. At home, she felt safe, but as soon as she went out, she found herself facing the cruel villagers who tormented her because of her thinness, especially when she went to the market. People compared the twins, whispered, and mocked them. One afternoon, while the twins were at the market to buy ingredients, a fish seller started to mock Oluoma. "Why did you take all of Oluchi's blood?" she said, laughing loudly. Everyone around joined in the mockery, and someone added, "Watch out for the strong wind tomorrow, Oluchi. Don't get blown away." Oluchi was so hurt that she remained silent. "You should be ashamed," replied Oluoma angrily. "Most of you have children, and if you don't, it's maybe because you're too mean to have any. But I'm sure you at least have brothers and sisters, so stop acting like fools." Oluchi was relieved to see her sister defend her. Oluoma always protected her against these mean people, until the day when everything changed. Oluoma's boyfriend, Chinedu, son of a famous cocoa farmer, had been in a relationship with Oluoma for 2 years. But he brought serious news. He would not marry her because his family did not approve of their relationship. "Why?" asked Oluoma, crying. "Am I not good enough for you?" "You are perfect," replied Chinedu, "but my parents are afraid that your sister's skinny genes will show up in our children." Oluoma couldn't believe her ears. Her world collapsed. She began to resent her twin, blaming Oluchi for being the cause of her sorrow. At the same time, she was excluded from social circles because they didn't like the way she defended her thin sister. Oluoma blamed Oluchi for all her misfortunes and decided to make her life miserable. Oluoma sat on the edge of her bed staring blankly at the wall. For 6 days she hadn't spoken to anyone. The silence in her room was deafening. She didn't even have the strength to message her ex-boyfriend, which she used to do every day before everything went wrong. Now she only felt an immense emptiness inside her. How did she get to this point? On her side, Oluchi couldn't hold back her tears every night. When the house fell silent and everyone was asleep, she would lock herself in her room to cry. She couldn't help but think about her sister's ex-boyfriend and the plans they had made together. They had planned everything: the wedding, a big house, and 4 children. They had even chosen their names: Mary, then David, followed by Grace and little Joshua. Their life should have been beautiful and filled with love. Now everything was gone. They couldn't believe it. Oluoma's dreams had shattered like a glass vase, fallen to the ground in 1,000 pieces, and all because of her sister. For Oluoma, it was Oluchi who had ruined everything. Every day, Oluoma's anger grew. She felt a burning hatred for her sister. Oluchi didn't understand why Oluoma was so distant and cold. She tried to talk to her, but each time Oluoma reacted angrily and walked away. Oluchi saw the pain in her sister's eyes, but it seemed that Oluoma refused to open up to her. Oluchi didn't know what she had done wrong. She missed their conversations, their close moments, and those nights when they stayed up late to talk about their hopes and dreams. Now Oluoma didn't want to hear anything. Day after day, Oluchi watched as Oluoma left early in the morning and came home late at night without ever saying where she had gone. It might not have mattered, but Oluoma was clearly avoiding her. Oluchi felt lonely. When she saw Oluoma laughing and chatting happily with her new friend Nancy, she felt pain in her heart. Oluoma spent hours locked in her room with Nancy, chatting, making plans, and Oluchi found herself left out, unable to join in. Oluoma simply didn't want her around anymore, and it hurt her terribly. Oluchi's life outside the house wasn't any easier. She had lost the confidence she once had to walk around the village. People were starting to whisper behind her back, pointing and judging her. No one was there to defend her, no one to tell the villagers to be quiet. Oluchi had always been a strong and independent young girl, but today, without support, she felt weak and helpless. At home, the situation was hardly any better. Oluchi spent most of her time locked in her room, afraid to go outside. She didn't want to face the stares of the villagers, who now looked at her with scorn or pity. She thought back with sadness to the time when Oluoma protected her and stood by her. They were a united team. Now, even at home, Oluchi walked carefully around her sister. She missed her sister so much. It was as if her whole world had been turned upside down. The worst thing was that she didn't know what could have caused this change. What had she done to deserve such rejection? She spent entire days writing letters to Oluoma, hoping that at least one of them would be read. But each time she left a letter on Oluoma's table, she found it later crumpled and thrown in the trash. Oluoma didn't even bother to read them or give her the chance to explain. One day, after yet another attempt to convince Oluoma to talk to her, Oluchi sat down at her desk facing a blank page. She had already written so many letters, all filled with regret, without result. While she was thinking about the next one, she heard bursts of laughter coming from Oluoma's room. It had been days since she had heard that sound, and that broke her heart. She got up and silently approached the door to look through the opening. She saw Oluoma and Nancy sitting on the floor, laughing and chatting. Oluchi felt a lump forming in her throat. She couldn't even remember the last time she had laughed with her sister. With tears in her eyes, Oluchi went back to her room, her heart heavy with sadness. She missed her sister more than she could express. But what could she do? Oluoma had made it clear that she no longer wanted her love. Oluchi had tried everything, talking, letters, her silent presence, without success. She felt like she had lost her sister forever. Meanwhile, the bond between Oluoma and Nancy was getting stronger. She would spend hours talking, imagining a future, and Oluoma felt that she had finally found someone who understood her. Nancy didn't judge her and didn't ask her to explain herself. For the first time in a long time, Oluoma felt that she could count on someone. However, this friendship wasn't enough to make the pain of the breakup with her ex-boyfriend go away, nor the anger linked to her strained relationship with Oluchi. The life plans that she had built with her ex still haunted her, and every time she crossed paths with Oluchi, she felt a strong sense of anger and hate. Oluchi, despite everything, continued to look for a way to get closer to Oluoma. She missed the old Oluoma, so protective. Even if she did not understand why everything had changed, she refused to give up on her sister. One day, Oluchi prepared a delicious meal for the family as she was used to doing, but Oluoma entered the kitchen and threw sand in the pot. "Why did you do that?" yelled Oluchi, shocked. "Shut up, skinny witch," replied Oluoma. The following week, Oluchi filled a bathtub and left it in the bathroom while she went to change before taking her bath. Oluoma took advantage of her absence to pour a product into the water. Without knowing it, Oluchi used it and began to frantically scratch her whole body. Her parents had to apply palm oil to calm the irritation. During all this time, Oluoma laughed out loud, and Oluchi quickly understood who was responsible. Now, instead of defending Oluchi in public, Oluoma humiliated her in front of everyone, at the market by calling her a walking skeleton. Oluchi spent her days crying. Their parents scolded Oluoma and ordered her to stop. "She's your twin sister," exclaimed their mother. "I didn't raise you to treat her like that." But Oluoma remained indifferent. "Oluchi destroyed my life. The love of my life left me because of this stick," Oluoma said coldly. Their mother screamed in shock. She slapped Oluoma violently. Despite all the mockery Oluchi suffered daily from the villagers and now from her own twin sister, an unexpected event soon shook the kingdom. Every 10 years, the Kingdom of Odam and the neighboring kingdoms organized a competition called the Maiden Queen Competition. Each kingdom had to present 3 of its most talented and beautiful young girls. The Kingdom of Odam was on edge this time, since the last competition had taken place in Odam. In the Kingdom of Odam, names of potential candidates began to be proposed. Some mentioned Oluchi's name in a mocking tone. Who would have the idea of sending a skeleton to represent humans? They joked. One afternoon, while Oluchi was going to get water from the village river, she met a man named Uchenna, one of the organizers of the competition who came from abroad. Oluchi, without knowing who he was, approached him. As soon as Uchenna saw her, he was amazed. "What a beauty!" he exclaimed. "You have a figure that many would dream of." Oluchi thought at first that he was making fun of her, but he seemed sincerely delighted. He explained to her that he was in her village to collect the names of the 3 young girls who would represent Odam village for the competition. "I am sure that your name will be on the list," he said. "You look perfectly suited." Oluchi, not believing him, replied that it was impossible because everyone hated her in the village and that they would never want her for such an event. She also told him that he was the first person to compliment her on her looks, while all the others called her a skeleton or even worse. Shocked, Ushena then encouraged her to dress nicely and to at least come to watch the competition, even if she did not participate. After thinking about it, Oluchi promised to go there. The day of the competition arrived. The people of Odam and the other villages went to the palace. Oluchi and Oluoma were also there, accompanied by their parents, all looking beautiful. After presenting the 3 candidates from each kingdom, the organizers announced that there would be an additional competitor sponsored by the High King himself. Indeed, one of the powers of the High Kingdom was to add an extra candidate to the list. Everyone wondered who would have this chance. The organizers then called Oluchi's name. Astonished, she remained frozen in place. Her village neighbors were stunned, and many felt jealous. Oluoma was seething with anger. "What's the point of putting a stick in this competition?" she muttered. However, no one had the power to challenge the king's decision. Oluchi's parents applauded with joy and encouraged her. Despite her surprise, she drew from their support the strength to stand tall and graceful alongside the 9 other candidates. The competition began with a cooking challenge. Each candidate had to prepare a traditional dish using their talent. Oluchi finished quickly, as if carried by her natural cooking skill. After tasting, the judges announced the 5 best candidates, including Oluchi, who qualified for the next stage. During the second test, the 5 young girls had to find a treasure hidden in a forest. The first to bring it back would be crowned queen of the 3 kingdoms. But there was an extra difficulty. Before reaching the forest, they had to swim across a river. Many candidates were not good swimmers, but Oluchi, being lighter, managed to cross quickly and reach the forest first to start the search. About 15 minutes later, another candidate named Jenny came out of the water and also began to look for the treasure. Suddenly, Oluchi saw a blue and shiny object in a bush. "That must be it," she cried, forgetting for a moment that she was not alone in the competition. Hearing Oluchi's voice, Jenny rushed in the same direction. The 2 girls ran, but Oluchi's dress caught on a branch, making her fall. Jenny arrived first at the sparkling object on the ground. Oluchi noticed that there were other blue objects exactly the same scattered everywhere. She understood that Jenny was wasting her time. Not wanting to make the same mistake again, Oluchi kept this secret to herself. Jenny, convinced she had found the treasure, turned back and persuaded the other 3 girls that she had won. Disappointed, they gave up and also returned to the kingdom. Oluchi continued her search. When she felt drops of water fall on her, she looked up and saw a golden box perched in a tree. It sparkled so brightly that Oluchi immediately understood it was the real treasure. Thanks to her slim build, she climbed the tree with ease, took down the box and opened it. Inside, she found several of these blue trinkets, confirming that what she held was indeed the authentic treasure. She closed the box and continued on her way to the palace. The young lady arrived at the palace, holding the box in her hand, and all eyes turned to Oluchi. She was exhausted, but she was determined. The organizers showed a drawing representing the real treasure they were looking for, which matched perfectly with the one she had found. She was then declared the winner and crowned young lady queen of the 3 kingdoms. As a reward, she received many gifts of gold, magnificent clothes, and even a house in her name. The people of her village were stunned and had to admit that they had been wrong about her. Many came to apologize to her, sometimes not very sincerely, for the way they had treated her. Her parents were overjoyed. While ashamed, Oluoma didn't know what to do. Back in the village, Oluoma decided to pack her bags and leave, overwhelmed by shame. "Why do you want to leave your family?" asked Oluchi. Oluoma, in tears, replied, "I regret what I did to you. You are my twin, and yet I treated you as if you were worthless. I gave more importance to what others thought than to my own sister. Let me go. I am so ashamed." "We came into the world on the same day from our mother's womb," replied Oluchi in a soft voice. "I love you no matter what happens, and I forgive you." They hugged each other. From that day on, the twin sisters lived happily for the rest of their days. If you liked this story, leave us a comment to encourage us. We will see you in the next story. The children laughed. "His ears are so big he could fly if the wind blew hard enough." The boy stood alone, trying to hold back tears. After Oluchi and Oluoma reconciled, their lives changed dramatically. Oluchi, now the crowned young lady queen of the 3 kingdoms, had many new responsibilities. Her new house, located near the palace in Odam Kingdom, was grand and beautiful, with large windows that let in plenty of sunlight. "I can't believe this is our home now," Oluchi said as she and Oluoma explored the spacious rooms. "It's wonderful," replied Oluoma, still feeling a bit ashamed of her past behavior. Though Oluchi had forgiven her, Oluoma was determined to make things right. The first few weeks were filled with celebrations. People from all three kingdoms came to honor their new young lady queen. Many brought gifts and wanted to meet the thin girl who had amazed everyone with her climbing skills and quick thinking. What surprised Oluchi most was how people now viewed her slender frame. The very thing that had once made her the target of mockery was now seen as beautiful and unique. "You must tell us your secret," said a woman from Sun Kingdom. "My daughter wishes to be graceful and agile like you." Oluchi smiled kindly. "There is no secret. We are all made differently, and that is something to celebrate, not mock." Oluoma nodded in agreement, feeling proud of her sister's wisdom. Their parents decided to move closer to Oluchi's new home, setting up a small shop where they sold gold trinkets crafted by their father. Business boomed as people from all three kingdoms wanted to own jewelry made by the queen's family. As part of her royal duties, Oluchi had to visit villages throughout the kingdoms, spreading goodwill and listening to people's concerns. Oluoma always accompanied her, serving as her most trusted advisor. During one such visit to a distant village in Sun Kingdom, they came across a young boy who was being teased because of his unusually large ears. "Look at him," the other children laughed. "His ears are so big he could fly if the wind blew hard enough." The boy stood alone, trying to hold back tears. Oluoma and Oluchi exchanged glances, both remembering how Oluchi had suffered similar treatment. "Stop this at once," Oluoma commanded, stepping forward. The children fell silent, recognizing the queen and her sister. Oluchi knelt beside the boy. "What's your name?" she asked gently. "Chinadu," he whispered, looking down. "Well, Chinadu, do you know what I see when I look at you?" Oluchi asked, lifting his chin. "I see a boy with special ears that can probably hear things others can't. Am I right?" Chinadu's eyes widened. "Yes. I can hear the birds singing from very far away, and sometimes I even hear the rain coming before anyone else does." "That's an amazing gift," Oluchi said, smiling. She turned to the other children. "Instead of mocking what makes someone different, we should appreciate the unique gifts each person brings." The children looked ashamed. One of them stepped forward. "I'm sorry, Chinadu. Can you teach me how to listen for birds?" Chinadu's face brightened as he nodded. Later that evening, as Oluchi and Oluoma prepared for bed in the village chief's guest house, Oluoma said, "You handled that wonderfully. You've become so wise, sister." Oluchi smiled. "I learned from experience, and I had a sister who showed me both the pain of rejection and the power of forgiveness." Oluoma hugged her tightly. "I will never let you down again." Months passed, and the three kingdoms prospered under the guidance of their young rulers. The High King was impressed with Oluchi's compassion and wisdom, often seeking her advice on matters concerning the welfare of the people. One day, a messenger arrived at Oluchi's house with urgent news. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing low, "the High King requests your presence immediately. A terrible drought has struck the northern villages of Moon Kingdom. The people are suffering, and the king believes you might have ideas to help." Oluchi and Oluoma set off immediately for the High King's palace. When they arrived, they found him looking worried, surrounded by advisors. "Ah, Queen Oluchi," he said, relief visible on his face. "Thank you for coming so quickly." "How can I help, Your Highness?" Oluchi asked. "The northern villages haven't seen rain in months. The crops are dying, and soon there will be hunger if we don't act," the king explained. While the advisors argued about sending food supplies or relocating villagers, Oluchi remained quiet, thinking deeply. Then she remembered something her mother used to tell them. "In our village," she finally said, "there was an old water finder. He could discover hidden springs using a special forked stick. He taught me how to find water when I was young." The advisors looked skeptical, but the king nodded. "Go on. If I could travel to these villages, perhaps I could help find water sources they haven't discovered yet," Oluchi suggested. "It's worth trying," Rose added supportively. The king agreed, and the next day, Oluchi, Oluoma, and a small group of helpers set out for the northern villages. The journey was long and difficult, especially as they entered the drought-stricken areas. The land was cracked and dry, the trees withered, and the people looked weak and hopeless. In the first village, Oluchi asked for a forked branch from a living tree. Using the techniques she had learned as a child, she walked slowly across the parched earth, holding the stick before her. Everyone watched in silence. After several hours of careful searching, the stick suddenly dipped downward. "Here," Oluchi said, "we should dig here." The villagers, though doubtful, were desperate enough to try anything. They began digging, and to everyone's amazement, after several feet of dry soil, they hit damp earth. By evening, they had uncovered a small spring of clear, fresh water. "It's a miracle," cried the village chief, tears streaming down his weathered face. But Oluchi wasn't finished. Over the next 2 weeks, she visited each affected village, finding hidden water sources in all but one. For that village, she arranged a system where water could be channeled from a neighboring community that had discovered an abundant spring. When they returned to the High King's palace, news of their success had preceded them. The king was overjoyed. "You have saved many lives," he told Oluchi. "How can I reward you?" Oluchi thought for a moment. "I would like to start a school," she said. "A place where children who are different, like I was, can learn and grow without fear of mockery. A place where being unique is celebrated." The king smiled. "It shall be done." Within a year, the School of Unique Gifts opened its doors in the Central Kingdom. Children from all 3 kingdoms who had been bullied or excluded because of their differences found a haven there. Oluoma became the school's first teacher, using her protective nature to ensure every child felt safe and valued. Ekena, Oluoma's former boyfriend, heard about the school and came to visit one day. When he saw how happy and fulfilled Oluoma was, he realized the terrible mistake he had made. "I was foolish," he admitted to Oluoma. "I let my family's fears and prejudices cloud my judgment. Can you ever forgive me?" Oluoma looked at him thoughtfully. "I have learned much about forgiveness from my sister," she said, "but I have also learned about self-worth. I am happy now, Ekena, and I no longer need your approval to feel complete." Ekena nodded, understanding. He left that day a humbler man. As for Oluchi, her fame spread throughout the lands. She wasn't just known as the thin girl who became queen anymore, but as the wise woman who found water in drought, who built schools for the different, and who ruled with compassion. One evening, as Oluchi and Oluoma sat on the balcony of their house, watching the sunset, Oluchi said, "Do you remember how the villagers used to mock me? How they said I would never be useful to anyone?" Oluoma nodded, squeezing her sister's hand. "I sometimes wonder," Oluchi continued, "if I should thank them. Their cruelty made me stronger, made me see the world differently." "Perhaps," Oluoma replied, "but no child should have to endure what you did to become strong." "That's why our school is so important," Oluchi said. "We're teaching children that strength comes in many forms and that being different isn't something to overcome. It's something to embrace." As night fell over the kingdom of Odam, the twin sisters, once divided by jealousy and misunderstanding, sat side by side, united in purpose and love. The stars above seemed to twinkle in approval, as if to say that sometimes the greatest treasures aren't found in golden boxes, but in the bonds we forge and the differences we celebrate. And somewhere in the village of Odam, children were telling a new story. The story of the skinny girl who became a queen, found water in drought, and taught the world that true beauty lies in being uniquely yourself. Little did they know that this was just the beginning of the twin sisters' adventures, for as long as there were differences to celebrate and lessons to learn, Oluchi and Oluoma would be there, hand in hand, showing the way forward. Several years passed and the School of Unique Gifts flourished under Oluchi and Oluoma's guidance. Children who had once been outcasts now walked with confidence, their special traits celebrated rather than mocked. The school had grown from a single building to a sprawling campus, with gardens, playgrounds, and specialized learning areas. One crisp morning, as Oluchi reviewed reports in her study, a messenger arrived from the distant kingdom of Oro, a land across the Great Sea that few from the 3 kingdoms had ever visited. "Your Majesty," the messenger said with a deep bow. "I bring greetings from King Madu of Oro. He has heard of your wisdom and kindness and requests your presence at his court. A great illness has struck his people, affecting only the children. The royal healers are baffled." Oluchi frowned with concern. "What kind of illness?" "The children become weak and cannot walk. Their legs grow thin, much like—" The messenger hesitated. "Much like your own frame, Your Majesty. King Madu believes your experience may hold the key to helping them." Oluoma, who had entered during this exchange, spoke up. "It could be dangerous to travel so far across the sea. But if children are suffering and I might help, how can I refuse?" Oluchi replied. That evening, Oluchi called a meeting with her advisors, Oluoma at her side as always. "I must go to Oro," she announced firmly. An elderly advisor shook his head. "The journey is treacherous, Your Majesty. Pirates roam those waters, and storms can appear without warning. Besides," added another, "who will govern while you are away?" Oluchi smiled at her sister. "Oluoma will serve as regent in my absence. There is no one I trust more." Oluoma's eyes widened. "Me? But I've never—" "You have watched and learned alongside me for years," Oluchi assured her. "The people respect you, and you know my heart. You will do well." Preparations for the journey took 2 weeks. The High King provided his finest ship and most experienced sailors. Chests were packed with gifts for King Madu, and Oluchi assembled a small team of trusted helpers, including her mother's old friend, who was a skilled healer. The night before departure, Oluoma couldn't sleep. She found Oluchi on the balcony, gazing at the stars. "What if I make mistakes while you're gone?" Oluoma asked, voicing her fears. Oluchi took her sister's hand. "Then you will learn from them, just as I have. Remember when I first became queen? I was so worried about making the right decisions." "You never showed it," Oluoma replied with surprise. "Because I had you beside me," Oluchi said softly, "and even when I'm across the sea, I'll still be with you in spirit." The next morning, the kingdom gathered at the harbor to bid farewell to their beloved queen. Oluchi, dressed in royal blue traveling clothes, embraced her sister tightly. "I'll return as soon as I can," she promised. As the ship sailed away, Oluoma felt a heaviness in her heart. For the first time since they were born, the twins would be truly separated by great distance. The journey to Oro was indeed perilous. Twice, storms threatened to capsize the ship, and once they narrowly escaped pirates by sailing into a hidden cove. But after 20 days at sea, the shores of Oro finally appeared on the horizon. Oro was unlike anything Oluchi had ever seen. The buildings were tall and curved like seashells, painted in shades of gold and amber. The people wore flowing garments with intricate patterns, and music filled the streets despite the somber mood caused by the children's illness. King Madu welcomed Oluchi with great ceremony. He was a tall man with kind eyes and a worried brow. "Queen Oluchi," he said, "your reputation for wisdom precedes you. Our children grow weaker by the day, and we have exhausted all remedies known to our healers." "May I see the afflicted children?" Oluchi asked. In a large pavilion, dozens of children lay on soft mats, their legs thin and weak, unable to bear their weight. Many cried from pain and frustration. Oluchi's heart ached at the sight. She spent days observing the children, talking with them and their parents, consulting with local healers, and examining everything from their food to their daily activities. Something about their condition seemed familiar to her, but she couldn't place it. One evening, while walking along the beach to clear her mind, Oluchi noticed fishermen unloading their daily catch. Among the fish was a strange yellow seaweed that she had never seen before. "What is that?" she asked a fisherman. "Golden kelp," he replied. "It grows abundant this time of year. The royal kitchens prize it for its sweet taste." A thought struck Oluchi. Is it served at the royal court? And perhaps in homes of wealthy families? "Yes, Your Majesty. It's considered a delicacy. Only the best families can afford it." Oluchi hurried back to the palace and confirmed her suspicion. All the afflicted children came from wealthy families who could afford the golden kelp. The poor children, who ate simpler diets, remained healthy. After consulting with her healer friend, Oluchi requested an audience with King Madu. Your Majesty, she explained, I believe the golden kelp, while delicious, contains something that weakens children's bones and muscles. In my kingdom, my own thinness was natural, but these children are suffering from something in their diet. King Madu was skeptical but desperate. What do you suggest? Remove the kelp from their meals and provide them with fresh milk, sun, and exercises I will design to strengthen their legs gradually, Oluchi said confidently. The king agreed, and within weeks the first signs of improvement appeared. Children who had been bedridden began to sit up, then stand with assistance. After 3 months, many were walking again, their legs slowly regaining strength. King Madu was overjoyed. You have saved our children, Queen Oluchi. How can Oro ever repay you? Form an alliance with the 3 kingdoms, Oluchi suggested. Share knowledge, trade fairly, and perhaps establish a school like mine, where differences are celebrated rather than feared. The king readily agreed, and a formal alliance was signed before Oluchi's departure. Meanwhile, in the 3 kingdoms, Oluoma faced challenges of her own. Just weeks after Oluchi's departure, a dispute arose between farmers in Odam and merchants in Sun over grain prices. The situation threatened to escalate into violence. Oluoma called leaders from both groups to the palace. Before we discuss prices, she said, I want each of you to spend 1 day doing the other's work. The suggestion was met with resistance, but Oluoma insisted. Farmers traveled to work in shops, while merchants toiled in fields under the hot sun. When they returned to the palace, their perspectives had changed. I had no idea how hard it is to work the land all day, admitted a merchant leader, and I never understood the risks merchants take when buying our grain, a farmer acknowledged. With this new understanding, they reached a fair agreement, and Oluoma established a regular exchange program where young people could learn both trades. The High King, impressed by Oluoma's innovative solution, began consulting her on other matters of state. Oluoma found herself growing into her role as regent, gaining confidence with each decision. When news arrived that Oluchi was returning, Oluoma felt both joy and a strange apprehension. She had discovered strengths she never knew she possessed and wondered how their relationship might change. As Oluchi's ship appeared on the horizon, crowds gathered at the harbor. Oluoma stood at the front, her heart pounding. When Oluchi descended the gangplank, the sisters rushed into each other's arms, holding each other tightly. I've missed you so much, Oluchi whispered. And I you, Oluoma replied. I have so much to tell you. That evening, in the privacy of their home, the sisters exchanged stories of their time apart. Oluchi spoke of Oro's strange beauty and the children she had helped heal. Oluoma described her challenges as regent and the lessons she had learned. You've changed, Oluchi observed with a smile. There's a new confidence in you. Oluoma nodded. I've discovered that I'm capable of more than I ever imagined. Being in your shadow for so long, I never had to find out what I could do on my own. A flicker of concern crossed Oluchi's face. Do you resent me for that? No, Oluoma said quickly, taking her sister's hands. I'm grateful. If you hadn't become queen, if you hadn't trusted me to rule in your absence, I might never have discovered these parts of myself. Oluchi smiled with relief. So what now? Do you wish to continue helping me govern? Oluoma thought for a moment. I've been thinking about that. The School of Unique Gifts has grown so much that it needs someone to oversee it full time. I'd like to be that person while still advising you when needed. A perfect solution, Oluchi agreed. And I have news from Oro that will make your role even more important. King Madu is sending 12 of his advisors' children to study at our school. They want to learn our methods so they can establish something similar in Oro. Oluoma's eyes widened. Our little school is becoming known across the seas. It's not just a school anymore, Oluchi said. It's the beginning of a new way of thinking. And it all started because you defended your skinny sister from village bullies. The twins laughed together, marveling at how far they had come from those difficult days in their village. The next morning, they walked together through the school grounds, watching children of all shapes, sizes, and abilities learning together. Among them now were the first students from Oro, still regaining their strength but eager to learn. A small girl with one arm shorter than the other approached the sisters. Queen Oluchi, Lady Oluoma, she said with a curtsy. Is it true that you were once made fun of because you were different? Oluchi knelt to the child's level. Yes, it's true. People can be unkind when they don't understand differences. And now you're the queen, the girl said with wonder. Yes, Oluchi smiled. But more importantly, I learned that what makes us different can also make us special. The girl beamed. That's what Lady Oluoma teaches us every day. As they continued their walk, a messenger arrived with a letter sealed with the High King's emblem. What news? Oluoma asked as Oluchi read it. The High King is calling a grand council of all neighboring kingdoms, including Oro, Oluchi explained. He wants to discuss establishing more schools like ours throughout the lands and creating laws to protect those who are different. Oluoma squeezed her sister's hand. So our work is just beginning. Yes, Oluchi agreed, looking out over the school grounds, but we'll face whatever comes next together, as we always have. As the sun set over the three kingdoms, the twins stood side by side, no longer divided by jealousy or misunderstanding, but united in purpose. The skinny girl who had once been mocked was now changing the world, with her once resentful sister as her strongest ally. And in villages throughout the land, the story continued to spread, of two sisters who turned their differences into strengths and taught others to do the same. It was a lesson that would echo through generations, long after Oluchi and Oluoma were gone. Thank you very much for your support. I really appreciate everyone watching. Have a nice day.